Why jump out of a perfectly good plane? It makes no sense.
Right, Liam's down then for the next skydive. Thank you.
I don't think we shout enough about all of the amazing work that we're doing and the difference that we're making.
Oh, Santa, I have to shave my beard off. Got the rest of it, but it's just not the beard.
Welcome back to Eleanor's Don't Say the Word podcast. I'm your host, Anna, and in this final episode of our retail mini-series, we're going to be looking at all things retail once again, but this is all about the business end of it and all of the great work that our retail shops do for Eleanor. And in this mini-series, we've explored the changing landscape, really the shift in dynamic from how charity shops are perceived to how high street shopping has really changed, and it has changed dramatically. And also the value of our charity shops, what they contribute to our hospice as well. So I'm joined today by two key figures from Eleanor, the lovely Liam Stone, who is our Head of Operations, and Sue Piper, our Director of Income Generation. Welcome to you both.
Good morning.
And this podcast, we're going to talk about the crucial role, let me say that again, crucial role that our charity shops play in supporting Eleanor's mission. So what our mission is at hospice. And our mission really is to provide palliative and end-of-life care to people with life-limiting conditions and enhancing their quality of life. And just for our listeners who might not know what a life-limiting condition is, it's a condition that you're never going to overcome, it can't be cured, and it really impacts your ability to live your day-to-day life. Now, over the last 10 years, our retail shops have contributed 4.2 million to our vital care work. Okay, we've had over 2.5 million customers through the door, and there's been just under 2.8 million transactions that have been processed. I mean, that's huge. What a reach in the last 10 years. Yeah. And last year particularly was the best year we've ever had. So we contributed £637,000 to our care work. This is all from our retail shops. £188,000 more than the previous year, which, given the cost of living at the moment, is a massive, massive benefit, isn't it, to us? And, thank you for those that have contributed that. And the profit raised by our shops in the last year alone, this equates to the best part of around 33,000 hours of nurse care, 21,000 counselling sessions, or 1,100 days of inpatient bed care. So when you equate to the pounds and what that means to our patients, that's massive. 33,000 hours of nursing care.
Yeah, some big numbers there.
We couldn't do what we do without that, surely.
No.
Definitely.
We couldn't.
And I think this is important, obviously, to sort of deliver some of these numbers today, to kind of give you an impact into actually when you want to support Eleanor, it is as simple as buying a pair of socks, a T-shirt or whatever else from our shops, because it does directly impact what we do as a charity.
It's mental, isn't it? When I saw those stats, I was like, wow. That's huge. And okay, so let's backtrack a bit. Right, Liam, as Director of Operations, what does your role involve, and how do you link with the retail shops?
Similar to Sue, on a weekly basis, it can change. And I think for me that's something I love. The sort of fluid role and responsibilities can kind of change. As obviously you're well aware, like I said, we can have one morning it'll be a really important meeting to do with the capital build. The next I'm going in to do some interviews supporting obviously the retail agenda, and obviously, like I said, looking at the restructuring of some of our stores, to a health and safety compliance check, bit of something I need to check or look over, to then back to the hospice where there's we're looking at some of the menu changes for the catering.
So it's quite broad, isn't it? It's like you're coming like more strategic stuff, obviously, as Director of Ops, but then also down to your lower level, the shop might need a new floor or, something is more operational. So it's a very vast remit, isn't it?
Yeah. And so obviously for myself in particular, I think the spectrum of what I kind of look after is incredible. And it's nice to be able to, I suppose feel like I can have an impact in all areas of the hospice and the charity in particular. And I think it's quite nice actually, in previous jobs, you wouldn't necessarily been able to sort of have the sort of, I suppose, the freedom almost to kind of have an impact of how you want to do and how you want to do. And, obviously working alongside Sue with, Income Generation, which I'm sure she'll go through in a second. But actually, it's really nice that we get on as well. Not in front of the camera, but behind the camera. Because actually, there's how we, I know Sue will talk about how we work together hand in hand, but actually it's really important that we are talking and we are liaising about And I know we say loosely, you know, Sue makes the money and I spend it. And you will kind of hear that. But it is important that, you know, sort of all the things that we're doing going forward as a charity, that, you know, this is impacted massively. So
yeah, definitely. And Sue, tell me a bit more about your role as Director of Income Generation.
Absolutely. So Liam and I work really closely together. Our work is so closely aligned. We have to collaborate. My role is really to raise the money and get that from as many different sources as possible. And it might be from corporates who are perhaps hosting a golf day. It might be from a school doing some fundraising. It might be from the little girl down the road who's just had a haircut, you know. Yes. And it comes from a variety of different sources. And all of those are really important to raising income, whether that's just £25 from a cake sale, or it's a significant bigger figure that's coming from some of our income streams. But what we try and do is reduce the risk by having as many different areas as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think more than ever now, we have to be quite creative and innovative with our fundraising. We can't just keep doing what we've always done. So we're always looking for that opportunity that we can really engage people in a positive way to help raise money for Eleanor. And I think because we recognise that our retail shops are such an important part of our income stream. But it's not just that, it's about getting volunteers involved that not only help within the shops, but help within our fundraising as well.
Yeah, definitely. So how does, like, say, your overall strategy around looking at the hospice, how we can generate an income? Because let's not forget, we are largely charitably funded. We are a charity. We're around sort of, at the moment, I think around 80% charitably funded. Mm-hmm. So it's hugely important for us to make sure that we can continue to get the income that we need to not just look after the people we got now, but, you know, new people that are going to find us, you know, over the next year, 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really important. How does retail play into that overarching strategy? How important is retail as part of it?
Yeah, it's massive because under my remit, I'm also responsible for the marketing and the communications. So we know that most of the people that walk through our shop doorways will be really important to us in a number of different ways. They often will end up playing our lottery. They might end up leaving a legacy.
Right,
we can actually sort of map that journey, if you want, from actually donating a bag of clothes into a shop or purchasing a book for a child. They then become much more engaged. They start to learn more about the work we do, the events we're running. We like to really keep them informed through our communication. So we want to develop that relationship the whole time so they keep thinking of us the whole time.
That's really interesting. So it is relationship building, isn't it?
Massively,
like you say, you might come in to just, I've got a couple of pairs of shoes or some kids' toys or whatever it might be that you think is really insignificant.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, you're part of our family.
Yeah.
It's like we want to keep you in the loop. We want to, you know, invite you to our events. And
yes.
It's a relationship building exercise, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think those little kind of trigger points, they might go away and they might see an advert in a magazine, or they might hear us on the radio, or see a poster or a sign on the local high street. And there again, they're thinking, here we are, you know, that's Eleanor again. So we work hard at really cultivating the relationships. And the more we understand the shoppers, the more we understand our supporters, we know what they enjoy and the sort of things they're likely to respond to. So that helps us build that relationship the whole time.
Nice, I see. And how do you do that? How do you sort of try to continue to engage? Because let's face it, I might just want to give you some, you know, kids' toys, and then that's it. I don't want to get involved anymore. But actually, I might have a real calling to do a bit more for you.
Yes.
How do you gauge that? How do you balance it? How do you get to know these people so you know how they can be part of our family and help us?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because that insight is so helpful. Because there's no point in us trying to promote a skydive if you're thinking that's the last thing in the world that I want to do.
Not today, no.
Why jump out of a perfectly good plane? It makes no sense.
Right, Liam's down then for the next skydive. Thank you.
Definitely not.
Understanding the kind of things that you might like to do, or you might like to come along to a coffee morning, or you might like to find out more about our services. It's about us understanding our supporters better.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not easy, and it takes time and tenacity. We have to be quite committed to that. But the better we understand the people that are coming through our shop doorway, the more we can make sure that communication is tailored to them more specifically, if that makes sense.
And that makes perfect, because, you know, with the best will in the world, I don't want to say, you know, hundreds of leaflets, like you say, with things that maybe half of that won't be relevant to me.
Yeah.
If you or us as a hospice, we do a bit of work initially to understand and build that relationship and find out what's important to the
Yes,
people coming
yeah.
through our doors.
Yeah.
We can tailor those comms and, events and things to things that we know that they might enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's really important, isn't it?
Massively.
But it takes a
important.
lot of work.
It does,
to get to that.
Yeah, but it's so worth it when we know that we can see the trigger points, we can see how people are engaging, they're coming along to events or they're returning to our shops. We know that, so that really helps in many ways.
And is there anything that we do, Sue, from, let's think sort of more higher level, like big, income generation activities? Is there something that we do, like, I don't know, on an annual basis, or things that really sort of, help us and our finances across the year?
Yeah, most definitely. We've got a really packed schedule every year of lots of different ways in which people can get involved. It might be something like the Twilight Walk, which is a great event that happens in September every year, which we get the local community engaged, and that might be through participating in the walk. It might be helping with the volunteering, handing out the medals at the end. We need people to really get involved in those kind of events, and they raise substantial amounts of money for us, so that's really important.
And I'm sure that a lot of the volunteers that already work with us, possibly work in our retail shops, would, be open to supporting events like that. It's not just a case of, we take help wherever we can. We're a charity. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But, I've been in, a couple of volunteers who I know work in shops, and they want to get involved in a lot.
Yeah.
It's not just about the retail. It's about, tell me, what do you need me for?
Yeah.
I'm here to volunteer my time.
It's
And so do you
true.
think we could maybe try and improve that a little bit? Not just trying to get new volunteers, but our existing volunteer base, particularly around retail, is, there may be more that we could do to try and get people on board with events?
Definitely. We're really looking for more volunteers the whole time. But I think for both Liam and I, it's about shifting the perception around volunteering, because often people will think if they're volunteering, they've got to do it on a regular basis. They've got to stand outside Morrison's with a bucket. And, that kind of real understanding of volunteering is so different these days. So different. So we help them understand it might be something they can do from home for us. It might be envelope stuffing or research. There's all sorts of different things people can do. And it might be on an ad hoc basis. They don't have to commit to so many hours a week. But we know, particularly within the shops, the volunteers, we simply couldn't operate without them, could
No,
we?
100%.
No.
And I think what's become obviously even more apparent whilst obviously, I know you've been in the role longer than me, but we're trying to work a bit more collaboratively, so even in the retail shops now, we're looking at ways of how do we sell the retail, the events tickets through the retail shops. And I know this is part of Sue's team that's essentially knocking on our door constantly going, right, how do we do it? And I'm trying to slow them down, which is a very, for me, that's very different. But, is making sure that I think going forward of, our retail shops have a real impact in how do we make it easier for your team to sell this stuff, and sell these tickets going forward for participants. Because I think even alongside that, a lot of the retail shops, you have so many volunteers in there that in the retail that won't necessarily get involved in the events. And actually, how do we coincide those two sorts of teams to work better? So yeah,
definitely. And Liam, we've touched on a bit outside of the podcast around the benefits. It's not just a financial benefit that our retail, I want to say industry, because we've got a lot of shops. There's a lot happening out in the community. It's great, but it's not always just it's not about the money. It's about, for the people that go in there, it's often the social interaction. It's if you're particularly very isolated or recently bereaved, it's about going somewhere where a face that knows you. And there's a bit more to it. I mean, Liam, tell me a bit about the value that you feel outside of the financial elements, what our shops bring.
Do you know what? I again, you kind of get this perception, obviously, when you're sort of, younger and you go through, etc., of kind of what is a charity shop? What does it involve? What does it entail? And I suppose what I've seen since starting this role is actually I'm seeing the same sorts of faces going into our shops and going in to check in on them. And I was talking to a really nice gentleman the other day who is, again, I won't say what location, but he was talking to me and he was sort of like, who are you? Like, I sort of opened that conversation up of, do I wind this gentleman up to sort of say, oh, Santa, to shave my beard off. You got the rest of it, but it's just not the beard. But yeah, and do you know what? It opened up a really nice conversation of, he'd lost his partner, obviously through the hospice, and we'd supported him. And actually, we are his only interaction.
Really?
He comes in quite frequently on a daily basis, and we'll come in and have a chat with whoever's in that day. And it was just really nice to hear that actually, he hasn't necessarily got the infrastructure outside of a home life, and actually he comes into our shop as a bit of a conversation, to sort of talk to somebody about how his day's going, what's going on, and the team are so welcoming, and they're like, "Oh, he's back again," you know, in a kind of like, I suppose, wind-up way. But you could see his face sort of light up as soon as they acknowledged him.
That's lovely.
So yeah, I think for me, that kind of portrays our retail, volunteers as well as staff, where we are welcoming. They are almost, doing the job of a counsellor, of a care worker, and stuff like that. Without the skill, without the skill, and without the title, but it's really key what we're doing. And the same, I've noticed that, when we do Twilight Walk, I've been to some of these big events, and I've got, bearing in mind, I was suited and booted when I did it last year.
Yeah.
We've done the full day, and I was like, actually, I'm going to go and walk it. Wouldn't recommend it fully suited, but yeah, it was still fun. But even with the community impact that you see your teams have, and some of the conversations they're having, it's family, you know. So yeah.
And that's lovely. It's like we said, it's not just about the finances. That is massively important for us as a hospice. We couldn't be here without that. But there's a bit more to it. It's like, in my head, it's like the retail and the charity shops is wrapping a support network around patients and or families that we've got in the community. So it's almost like, it's not all about the clinical care. There's a lot more to it, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which is why we offer so many different services and so many wellbeing services as well as clinical care. And retail plays a massive part in that.
Yes.
Like you say, that sort of unofficial counsellor that will just sit and have a cup of tea with you while you're bringing your bag of old clothes. And that's so important. I know you can't always measure that, and we spoke a bit about measuring, but that's so important, surely, so very valuable.
They become almost like community hubs, and we know for the volunteers, if it's combating isolation and it gives them a purpose, they might volunteer one morning a week, but actually they know that they've got something to get up for and do. And we really like to feel that we're adding huge benefit and value to their lives as well.
And that's lovely. It's and I mean, to be fair, thinking about like the stigma that's maybe attached to the charity shop. Yeah. This is me in my head, stigma attached. Like my nan, she loved a charity shop. She'd be in all of them. She'd take all her bags and I'll have that bargain and that bargain and that bargain. There's a bit of a stereotype attached to charity shops. As you know, there's a lot of people, my nan's friends particularly, they don't know what shop they're in, they don't know where they're spending their money, but they just know it's a charity shop.
Yeah.
And that stigma, I think, has changed significantly, hasn't it?
I would so agree with that, I know, and I think you're absolutely right. That is the perception of old, but I do think things are changing, and I think the cost of living crisis is partly to do with that. People are a little bit more thrifty, but they're going into the shops to look for a bargain because they know there's so much available, and they are shopping and being very savvy about it. And actually, we have really worked hard at Eleanor to change the perception of what a kind of dusty, smelly old charity shop was years ago. It's not that anymore. It's so different. It's a really great experience to kind of go in, and people love to rummage around and find that bargain. And I think the more they do that, the more they see what we've got available. So we've worked really hard at that, and we know that is really creating a great impact, and people appreciate all of it.
And that's interesting, isn't it? Like if I just go to, Blue Water or Lakeside or, there's big boards now where shops used to be, like massive high street chains that aren't there anymore. They're not on the high street anymore. Things are changing. The behaviour's changing. Yeah. How do you think charity shops are going to play a part in that? I mean, is it like almost like the high street's gone, all these big brands are gone and charity shops are up and coming? Is it sustainable? I mean, Liam, maybe first, what's your thoughts on that?
To be fair, obviously, the high street's changing. You've only got to walk around and you see some of the, the national shopping centres that are firstly impacted by, they're being hit first before the high street in my head. And, the high street is changing. And I think it's for the better. There's, like I said, a lot of these national chains have kind of sort of come into certain towns and swallowed up everybody. And they will, sort of eat everybody alive or any businesses around it. Actually, it's kind of getting to a bit of a sort of a scale now where actually people are now shopping savvier. They're looking for a bargain. They are being smart about what they do and where they spend. Sometimes if you're in one of the high street chain shops, bear in mind because they work for a big one, but they will just go, oh, while I'm here, I'll get this. Actually, are you looking out elsewhere? Are you looking at alternatives? And is there anything else you could pick up whilst in your local charity shop or something like that? So it will continue to change. I think for the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to be very challenging time for everybody. But I think, look, for us, we're going to continue to grow. I know, we've got 10 locations currently, and we're going to double that in the next 3 years. So for us, we're going to continue to grow. We're going to keep on doing that. But it'll be more strategic for us going forward about what towns we go to, where we would like to go to, and I suppose where people would like to see us as well. That'd be great to kind of get a bit of feedback from people if they're watching the podcast or listening to that. I would love to hear where people would like to see our shops.
Yes.
But we will be expanding quite rapidly.
And that's interesting, isn't it? We spoke a bit about like high street stores closing down or just doing online. And even if I go into a high street store now, they haven't got the stock that they once had.
No.
So more often than not, even if I go in there, they haven't got the size that I might need, and they haven't got the, the kids' shoes that I wanted. So I have to go online anyway. And it is very much changing. I mean, even though that there's high street, big chains that are closing, last year we did, our best year ever in retail, in charity. I mean, Sue, do you think that's can we sustain that? Can we keep that going?
Absolutely do, yeah. And I think as long as we can keep up with that, it makes sense that we're really focusing on it. I think for me also the important point to add is that we're seeing a lot of the consumers are driven by social value. They want to save the planet.
Yes.
They're very conscious of where they're shopping and avoiding a lot of things going to landfill. They recognise that they are contributing in their own way by shopping in our retail shop. So I think there's that sort of added piece really that actually a lot of the youngsters coming through the door really attach a lot of importance to sort of buying and being very smart about how they do that.
Love that. So you're getting what you need or what you want from your clothes or whatever you're buying, but actually you're also giving back by doing, just conducting a behaviour you would have done elsewhere anyway.
Exactly.
But you're giving back to the community that really needs it.
Yeah.
And the people that we support and the families that we support.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. That's a
definitely.
really, really good point.
Yeah.
And so in the online space, do we have like an online shop at the minute, or is that somewhere we're going with retail?
So we are nearly there. We're very obviously I believe it's something we sort of dipped our toe in the water with previously and got necessarily sort of mastered, but we are working coincide together about how we deliver that going forward.
Oh, brilliant.
It is one of those things you kind of go, right, let's just launch it, let's just get it out there. But actually, it's really important we take the time to consolidate, look at what we got and launch it when sort of all teams are ready. Because this is going to affect not necessarily just the retail team, but, about your team and obviously the organisation. So we're currently in kind of trial stage of getting the processes, making sure how we do it and how it operates. But we will be very much live this year.
Nice.
It's exciting, hey?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you say, in my head, I'm like still this little stigma of charity shops. I'm like my nan going into this sort of dark and dismal shop and getting in the back and rummaging. But it's not that anymore, is it? It's it's for me, that's obviously just a fond memory of my nan, God rest her soul. But it's more like we're moving with the times, and we have to move with the times. And if we're still, making the money that, we've got coming in with the shops, imagine what we could do for the communities that we serve and the income we could generate if we do move to that online space as well.
Yeah.
Like you say, Sue, if the demographic is actually quite younger and that, maybe younger shoppers are now coming through our doors.
Yeah.
Technology isn't necessarily a barrier, shall we say, to everyone. So that's exciting. That's a big step for the hospice.
Oh, massive.
Isn't it?
Yeah. But it's a very thought through aim and objective. It's part of our strategic aspirations, and certainly going into this e-commerce space, Liam's absolutely right. We've got to do it. We've got to do it well, and we've got to make sure that if we're driving people to our website, whether that's to buy Christmas cards or a beautiful coat or something like that, it's important that we're doing it right. So. But we're massively excited about it.
And I think, just talking about another point you just raised, to be fair, I actually had a really challenging conversation with a customer the other day, and it was all very heartfelt and stuff like that. But actually, this gentleman was actually quite disgruntled by the fact that he said this shop doesn't look like a charity shop anymore. I mean, obviously we just refurbed it. And actually, he was quite disgruntled. He said, it doesn't smell like a charity shop. It doesn't look like a charity shop. It looks like a boutique shop. And it's kind of that, really sort of challenging conversation of actually, he's obviously, for what he'd been used to, that's kind of thrown him off, and that wasn't obviously what he's currently seeing. So, it was dealt with obviously properly. Obviously, I kind of just picked up on the back of the conversation, but actually, it was kind of making him understand that actually the longevity of our charity shops is making sure we look after the shop. We make sure the refurb, and it's appealing for people to come in and spend time in there.
And not only that, it's if I'm a volunteer working in that environment, with best will in the world, great. I'll come and volunteer my time, but I want to feel like safe, comfortable space. I want to have my little area at the back where I can make a cup of tea and go and have my sandwich. And for staff and volunteer morale, that's important. It's not just we're not just doing that for the customers. We're doing that actually for our Eleanor family and looking after the people that come and volunteer their time and effort.
Yeah.
So it's a balance, isn't it?
It's so tricky.
Change is a balance.
Yeah. It's so right. But I think we want them to be proud of where they work, and we want them to go to work really looking forward to that environment. And, on the flip side of Liam's experience, we also had a really positive experience not so long ago when we had a gentleman come into one of our shops and make a significant donation because he was so impressed by how the shop looked. He gave us £1,000. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was his regular shop. He'd been shopping there for years, and he was just so pleased to see that we'd invested in it.
That's
and
amazing.
That's the other side of it sometimes.
Yeah,
so.
there is a balance that has to be struck, and we, very much want to continue to engage with our community.
Yeah.
If you're listening to the podcast, feel free to tell us your thoughts. I'm hoping that now that you've found your feet a bit, certainly Liam, in the role and stuff, we will be doing more community engagement. We will be, talking to our shoppers more to find out about you, about what you want, about, how we can help you so that you can help us.
Yeah.
That is really, really important. And I'm going to say we maybe haven't been as great as we could have been over, the last several years, but sounds like Sue, you've got some plans to try and Sue's action plan. She's like, boom.
But that's exciting, and I think the fact that we're both working really strongly together in terms of really shifting the dial and moving things forward. So there are lots of opportunities, and you're right. You mentioned earlier sometimes people can get overwhelmed with too much comms and too many asks, but actually, if we can get that right, we know that our shoppers will keep coming back.
Yeah, definitely, and it is a hard balance to strike, but one that we're intent on finding the right balance for people. So again, any thoughts or anything you've got around, help with our retail sector, that would be good.
Yeah.
Write in, was it info@ellenor.org? Check us out.
Yeah.
We'll all give you Liam's personal mobile number. You can call him, have a brief chat. He won't mind. He works all hours anyway.
That's it, yeah. I think it's nice to mention as well, and obviously I know we've briefly sort of loosely discussed this, but some of the things we're working on this year is in some of the new as well as the existing shops is we're going to look to put like community spaces into those shops, whether that be a small coffee shop or something like that, where there's tables there to kind of grab a chair, grab a book, and be with
amazing.
the sort of elements of the community. As well as obviously Christmas cards this year, a few ideas have come around from Stella, obviously through our area manager, who would really wants to work closely with fundraising this year and seeing if we can get the local community to design a Christmas card, and then essentially use that as a design. But there's lots of exciting things, happening in the whole charity. So
it's a really interesting point, because if I'm thinking, like, for example, when I donated my nan's. Some of my nan's bits and bobs that when we cleared out her house after she died, and it was a massive thing for me to be donating what I donated, because it's not an item, it's a memory.
Yeah.
And for me to be able to do that, and maybe it's an event for me, right? I'm not just coming in to dump the bags and go, although that might be what some people do, but for me, there's a memory attached to it. And to bring it in and sit down and have a coffee and have a chat with someone, it's an event, and it should be treated as an event. Yeah. So for us to enhance that space, to be able to allow people to come in and do that, that's brilliant. Because all I do is I go spend my money at Costa or Starbucks or somewhere else. Like, let's keep it within the hospice and let's, produce that environment for people. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so for us as a local hospice, we still have to generate around £7.5 million a year. That's massive. And considering we are a local hospice, our local community, I think we're around about 300,000 people in the sort of the demographic that we serve, roughly. That's big numbers, 7.5 million. And as a charity, we're a local charity. We just, reach to our local communities. How can we compete with like big charities, big brands? The advert. I'm sitting there watching EastEnders, and an advert comes on after for, big, national dementia charity or something. How can we ever compete with that and keep that coming in?
It's a competitive space, without a doubt. We know that. But what we also know is our local community are incredibly supportive of Eleanor. They almost feel a sense of owning that and being part of it. I think,
That's
you know,
true.
they feel sometimes when they probably donate to a much larger charity, then they don't know where their money's going and the difference it's making. And I think they sometimes see it that the bigger charities, you're only going to make a really small impact with your donation. Whereas actually we work hard at helping people locally understand the difference that they're making through their support and their donation in whatever that might be. They know that it's going back within that community. And I think there's a little bit of people never know when they may need our services and support. It might be for a family member, a friend, a relative, but we'll always be there for them, and we want that to continue. And I think the reason people give to us is they want that to continue. They want us always to be there should they ever need us.
So obviously, the money that comes in, not just from retail, but from a number of, you know, other income generation avenues, should we say, there's a huge proportion of that we, you know, put back into the system, if we like. So we have to train and upskill our staff.
Yeah.
You know, clinical care moves on, conditions move on. We need to make sure that our clinical staff particularly have got the right skills and understanding, education. And, you know, our new wellbeing centre, we're building it at the minute. If you're driving past the hospice, you see a massive crane, 80-ton crane, lifting all the stills into place. Like, that's our new wellbeing centre we're constructing to deliver, again, an upskill, you know, our amazing staff who deliver care. And there is a proportion of that money from retail that goes back into the system to upskill and educate our staff. How important is that for us as a hospice? So,
yeah, as an employer, we're really committed to the learning and development of all of our staff. And I think particularly our nurses, all our clinical staff, we have to make sure that they've got the latest training and the support to ensure they're delivering the best service possible. So, of course, all of that comes with a cost and investment as well, the time, and we cannot afford to compromise that. So we recognise only too well that if we want to give the highest standards of care and support, we have to put some of the money aside to make that happen.
of course. And again, us building our brand new centre, we're going to deliver, hopefully, the best training, you know, upskilling our staff, like we said, and, you know, contributing as much as we possibly can to our team of people to be able to contribute back to our patients that are incredibly complex.
Yes.
I mean, 90% of what we deliver is in people's own homes because that's where people want to be cared for.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you can't come into the hospice for a bit of respite or for some, you know, complementary therapies. It's not just always about clinical care, but like you say, Sue, we have to reinvest in our staff to make sure that we are the best that we can possibly be at delivering care in our local community.
Most definitely. We want people to come to us earlier on their journey. All too often we see cases where people come to us in their final days and weeks, but actually we want them to come at the beginning of that journey, however long it may well be. And we offer so many wonderful services and support and ways to really kind of help throughout that process that we need to make sure our staff are delivering that.
Yes.
So the sooner people come to us, the better, really.
And it's obviously retail, you know, some of the stats that I went over earlier, you know, £637,000 last year from retail contributed. That was up by 30% on the previous year. We spoke a bit about cost of living and people reining it in, but, you know, retail's hitting the mark, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like you say, with the culture changing and where as well, there's, and I want to say, I want more. That's great, but like Eleanor needs more. We want more. Like there's more people out there that we need to reach as well. So in terms of where do we go from here? You mentioned about this sort of more shops, hopefully, that we're looking at.
Yeah, and I think for me in particular, you know, it is about outreaching more and more people. And I know obviously it's this like a shared strategy that we are obviously looking at as a senior management team and obviously as a, you know, the group of directors. Our area kind of really, we cover quite a small area, or quite a large, but still quite a small area when you look at
compared
it from
to national as well,
to
national
national levels. And actually, do you know what, the people that we actually look after or cater for and stuff like that, I envisage us going to towns locally outside of where we currently are.
Right, okay.
And because, you know, people maybe have been supported when they were younger and then moved out of the area, etc. And actually, I speak to so many people from quite big companies saying, oh, why don't you get a shop in this town or this town? And we're kind of like, actually, why don't we do it? You know, there's not like sort of charity shop wars or anything like that. Actually,
not yet.
Not yet.
There will be when Liam's
I've not started yet, but actually, do you know what? you know, we've got some really strong connections with other national charities where people are kind of quite, you know, actually look, you're shut for a refurb, or can we take them bits and hold them for you until you open up next week and stuff like that. And, you know, obviously I know we touched on refurbs in particular, but we're pumping quite a nice little bit of money in this year to make sure that our retail shops look and feel better for our staff as well as the community, you know, because there's nothing worse than going in a shop and then kind of feeling like you want to get in, get what you need and get out. Yeah. It is that community space.
And so some of those stats I reeled off, obviously, around, you know, our increase from, you know, the year before in retail, £637,000 contributing into our care. What that means for us, 33,000 hours of nursing care time, 21,000 counselling sessions. Like, they're big stats. Like, do we promote them? Like, are we going to promote things like that? Like, i.e., I've spent my money, I've come in and I've contributed and I feel much better for it, but what does that mean for Eleanor? Are we promoting that, or are we going to promote that?
You raise a really good point. And actually, I don't think we shout enough about all of the amazing work that we're doing and the difference that we're making. And often it's kind of hidden a little bit away in our website, but we need to be bolder and actually braver about taking those messages out there. And I think as much as it's important to recognise the success and the great work we're doing, alongside that, we've got to manage the message. We still need more. You know, that's really hard, because our community is growing exponentially around North Kent. People are living longer, and we need to make sure that we're not only continuing the service we're doing, but we're growing it and we're getting bigger and better, because we've got to be fit for purpose, not tomorrow, but 10, 20, 30 years down the line. And we've got to change with that. So you're right. It's being very articulate about what we say, but helping people understand that actually we still need a little bit more without sounding greedy.
No, of course, you know? Of course. Yeah. Do you know what, I think that helps. It just to see that the amount of money that our shops make and contribute to the Eleanor pot and where that goes. Yeah. That's, you know, for me, walking into a charity shop and spending my money, it's really important for me to hear. So, if we could do anything to try and bolster that message, you know, when you're sitting having a coffee in your new shop, that, you know, sitting there, there's a big poster on the wall that says, like, you know, this is Jack and he contributed. Do you know what I mean? To something a bit more personal.
Absolutely.
I think that would be great.
I think we're really excited about what we can do with that space. And I think it's as well about the benefits that we offer and the ways in which we can help people. And it might be, for example, offering a will writing service, for example. Someone sits having their coffee, they've just donated their bag of things, and they think, actually, I haven't got my will written, I need help with that. You know, there are a lot of services and support that we offer to people that they don't always know about. So we will be working hard at getting that message out there. I
love that. It's like the endless possibilities. My mind's going now, thinking, right, okay, so I want to do that. I love it. This
and we
is
can
good.
change that. I think we'd really like some sort of digital screen so that the message keeps changing, and we can really kind of do some great work with that.
So if anyone's got any TV screens they'd like to donate to us, you know, we need about 10, 12, that'd be great.
Definitely.
You know, hit us up.
Say 20, just so we got.
Okay, we need to scrap that bit. We need 20 screens. That'd be great, if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. And I think with that, there's also some great opportunities. So say, for example, the corporates or the businesses in the area, they might like to advertise in their shops, in our shops, so that when someone's sitting having their coffee, we've got a corporate sponsoring us or doing some work, they may like to advertise their service as well.
Advertising space as well.
It's a really exciting space that we want to kind of collaborate with local businesses and network a little bit more and see the benefits of that kind of two-way relationship.
And I love how you said local businesses as well, because you know, we're a local hospice. You know, it is about working together as a team, and you know, with our amazing corporate, you know, sponsors and everything we get from our corporate, you know, partners. How can we work together to sort of get your message out, get our message out, and you know, work as a team? I love that. So we're keeping it local, but we got big ideas and ambitions, and you know, maybe some unique ways around trying to promote what we do.
I think that's what kind of makes us special, I suppose, really. And I know, I'm sure most other businesses would say this, but or hospices. But I feel that if we, you know, I'm a lot more at the minute to give into the charity shop, to give into the thing, because actually I know where that goes, and I know that where I'm going to impact. I feel like, again, this is me. I personally feel that sometimes if you give to a big corporate like previously, you do lose it, and it gets lost in kind of translation of where. Whereas I feel like we're very much more proactive on, come to the hospice, have a picture in front of the logo. Let's talk about where your money's going to impact into this area or that area. Or
we're good at that. We are.
So that's, I suppose, for me, where I feel like we're quite different to, where we've had local supporters and donors and stuff like that in businesses. They've come in and said, "Oh, we want to get involved in this or that project, etc." And they can see it. So it's quite big for me.
And have you got any examples, I suppose, either of you, of directly, say with retail, the money that's come in, what's the impact of that? Are there any stories or anything that you've got that you'd be happy to divulge or share around? What's the impact of everyone putting their money in the pot with retail and where does it go? Yeah,
so obviously in the shops in particular, obviously we're doing a big overhaul at the minute. So a lot of it is a case of you kind of walk in the shop and you couldn't necessarily see what you're looking at and going, hang on a minute. So, we are doing a big lighting upgrade and we are doing a big, so at least with the lights, the flooring and so a few other safety measures to make sure that they are heated and that actually, the staff have got or the volunteers have got a microwave and a bit of thing to have a hot and a cold meal or whatever they choose to have. There is that facilities in there. I suppose corporate partners, with Sue's doing quite a lot of work with some people for the hospice, so I'll let you go for it.
Yeah, most definitely, I think there's a couple of things which would be really good to share. We know we've got some great examples of employability where people have volunteered within our shops and come with probably very little confidence or experience, and we've almost given them a platform, if you want, to be able to get the skills and the experience that they've then gone on to sort of be able to get employment. So I think that's a really nice way in which we can demonstrate the value that we offer. But certainly for a lot of the corporates we're working with, they help with our donations significantly, because if you can imagine, a corporate's got 200, 500, 1,000 employees. If we get them all to come together and have a day in the office where they all bring their bags and bring their donations, that boosts our stocks significantly. So those kind of things really help enormously. But often corporates will also want some experience. They might offer pro bono skills that we could utilise, and even sort of doing volunteering stints within our shops is a really great way for them to be able to kind of work with their teams, but also it really helps us as well.
I love that. So it's not always about, like you say, financially contributing. It's around giving your time, your effort, your energy. And if we have a massive group of people via a corporate sponsor, that's huge for us. That's a massive saving that we might have had to have spent money on otherwise to do certain tasks.
Definitely. So we've had a couple of really great initiatives in the past where we've had corporate teams almost take over a shop for a day and have them competing in different shops to see who can raise the most, kind of
money. I
sort
love
of
it.
Alan Sugar sort of apprentice style competition, but actually it takes them away from their desks and their normal lives, and they get to kind of come in and own that shop for the day and see how much they can make. So, these kind of things are really great for us.
It is very much thinking outside the box, isn't it? In, particularly local charity sector, it's, this is why you do what you do. But it's about thinking, what can we do different to maybe, how we've done before and trying different things to just see what works for us. Well, according to the figures, you're not doing too bad, to be fair.
We're doing great.
You're all right for now. You're all right, but big ambitions and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
And, listen, if someone's sat here now listening to this or watching this and thinking, I want a piece of that, I want to get involved, are there certain skills that you might need to start volunteering in retail?
Do you know what? It's such a diverse community, and literally, you may have a background in retail, you may have got a background in catering or any. We've got so many different opportunities across the whole charity to get involved. So I think sometimes it is that half the approach, just get in touch. Obviously, you can follow the channels through or pop into one of the shops and kind of put you in touch with the best person, whether it be through someone in Sue's team, someone in my team, or whatever else. But it just get in touch, and then, like I said, we can kind of see where best suited.
I love that. So it's not always about you fitting in with us. It's about us looking at you, seeing what you want, what you can offer, where you might want to progress. And us saying, right, well, I've got something for you. Hang on, this is
exactly.
So that's a nice approach. I like that.
Oh, massively so. It's really important. There's no point in us asking someone to do something that they have
or they're not happy
skills
with.
Or experience that they no interest in whatsoever. But you're right, understanding what really appeals to them and what they want to get out of it is so key for us.
And listen, how can people get more involved? So when they do come in to the shops as an example. So gift aid is something that we promote, is it, at the moment?
Yeah, so gift aid is really, really important for us in the shops. Obviously, if you are on our system or not on the system, it takes literally a couple of minutes to fill out. Obviously, and then we then log you onto our system. So everything you're donating, obviously, basically, if you pay tax or you can claim it through that way, we can then claim gift aid, obviously, on your donations.
So it's in addition to what you might be buying. Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
It's something really simple for me to just, give you my name, email, etc.
And so when you're donating as well, so you bring a bag of clothes in or whatever, we can obviously make extra on that with your gift aid details. So
gift aid is important.
It's really important, yeah. It boosts our income significantly. So, we would encourage everyone to do that. And as Liam says, it takes just a minute the first time, but once you go again, you've got your card. You
literally have a little card, which you get like a card. You can either have a full-size card or a little keychain card.
Okay.
And literally just snap it every time you go through. It takes...
It's like your Tesco club card.
Yeah, exactly.
Other club cards are available, but it's your Eleanor club card, basically. That
essentially, and then like I said, we then obviously that. But then I suppose the nice thing is actually you then see that element has been donated by you. Do you know what I mean? So you then can see when obviously we put the gift aid claim through, you can see at the end of the year what you kind of raised for charity. Which is, for me, it's nice. When I got my first letter, I was like, oh.
Yeah,
that's
£100 just
lovely,
for essentially just for goods that was no good to me.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a nice little donation bit.
Gift aid, very important.
It's a powerful message, and as Liam says, you'll get that letter at the end of a year and say you've donated X amount over the year, and actually that has translated to 10 counselling sessions for someone who needed it. And I think that's a really important message we try to get over.
There you go. So the one takeaway, if nothing else, gift aid everything.
Definitely. Yeah.
You're going anywhere, gift aid, the absolute lot.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to just, donate anything, items, money, whatever it might be, so I can check out the website, I can just walk into a shop, there's not a process behind me donating, I just walk in and...
Depends on obviously what the goods are, but obviously we have got a certain list of prohibited items, but obviously we can't necessarily take things like knives, etc., and all the rest of it. Certain earrings, I would say. Yeah. But like I said, I think if it's furniture in particular, you can go through the website, and like I said, because we take a whole massive range of furniture, obviously new, used, old, etc. So you can book that through the website, and obviously most of the other chains are through the website. Or alternatively, give us a call. We can they'll put you in touch with the right person.
Right, so get in touch, and we'll go from there, basically.
Definitely.
That's it.
Oh, I love it. Well, listen, it's been great talking to you, and it's been really insightful. Just, I know we spoke a bit about figures, and it's not just about the figures, but we wouldn't be here helping the people we help without that money coming in, and retail, plays a huge part in that.
And just to say, we are so grateful to all of our shoppers, however small or however big.
Yes.
It all helps, and it makes a really important difference. It's making change happen for us. So thank you to all of our shoppers.
And if you see us out in the shops, we will sign autographs. So if you see me also,
that's it.
But thank you.
No, thank you to everyone. And that was our podcast, last in our mini series for retail. Thank you for listening, and I will see you on the next one.